Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Julie here from the StoryADay podcast, coming to you from the beginning of April. It's the beginning of April, you know what that means. StoryADay May is only a month away. Now, there's a whole year in which you are writing. I'm aware of this. This is not the only time, I hope, during the year that you're writing, but this is an amazing time of year. StoryADay May is not for everyone, but if you make your own rules, it can be for a lot of people. And here's why I'm trying to encourage you to participate in StoryADay May. Sometimes we get a little caught up in taking our writing seriously. We should take our writing seriously. It's a serious business. It's a serious craft. We love reading. We love writing. We take it very seriously. But sometimes that can squish all the fun out of writing for us. Challenges like StoryADay May and other time-limited, extreme creativity challenges do this thing for us, and that is they free us from perfectionism. They teach us to keep going no matter what. They help us learn how we become creatives in this world. How do you find time, make time to write in this world? On an average day, it's really hard. You take a month and concentrate your attention on the challenge of making time to write, and you're going to learn some things. It also, a challenge specifically like StoryADay, gives you the opportunity to try out a whole bunch of things that you would never think of doing. There's a desperation that kicks in after a few days of writing a StoryADay May, which really feeds your creativity. And the only way to embrace it is not to treat it like a task you have to complete, but like a wave you're surfing. You might fall in, but then you just grab your board and get back up again. I always tell people, don't try and catch up. If you don't live up to your expectations for the month, just keep moving forward. If you stick with us throughout the whole month, whether or not you're actually writing a story a day, if you set some commitments for yourself to write more than you would otherwise and stick to them, and if you keep opening the daily emails and looking at the daily prompts, you will be thinking about your writing far more in a far more intense and creative way than you do on the other 11 months of the year. So if you have signed up for StoryADay May 2025, you will already be receiving daily emails from me on weekdays during April, a bunch of tiny tasks that are intended to create tools you can draw on when the month of May comes around. I have done this challenge. This is my 16th year. I have done it many different ways. The first year, put no planning into it whatsoever. Didn't do any warm-up writing. Didn't go as well as I thought it would. I was a little rusty. It was hard. Don't do that. Do some warm-up writing this month. So some of the things that I'm sending out this month are tiny tasks that you can do 5 days a week to gather material that you can draw on during the month of May, and also to get your head in the right place for the month of May. So this first week I'm getting you to gather material so that on a day when you're not inspired, you can look back at the things you gathered in April and go, okay, I'll use that. Okay, I'll write about that kind of character. Okay, I'll use that setting. Things that you think about ahead of time and not when you're under the crunch of a deadline can be great for getting the creativity started. Once you're writing, once you have your story started on a given day, there's a ton of other types of creativity that will bubble up, and you'll never be more creative than when you're actually writing. But in order to take the step from not writing to in the middle of a story, that one can be a bit of a heavy lift. So the exercises I'm giving you and sending out in your email, if you're signed up in April, are intended to create a bunch of material for you to draw on so that you're not feeling the double pressure of coming up with a novel idea, figuring out how to use a prompt and write about it and complete a story all at the same time while you're under a time crunch and the rest of your life is crowding in on you as well. So get signed up, StoryADay. Come over to storyaday.org. Right there on the front page, you can sign up for the challenge, and then I will start sending you these emails. What I'm going to do on the podcast today is I'm going to tell you about the 5, I think it's just 4 this week. Next week will be 5. I'm going to tell you about the challenges I have issued, the tiny tasks I have issued this week, so you can catch up with them today. This is something you can catch up with. I don't recommend trying to catch up with the stories during StoryADay May, but these tiny tasks, you can absolutely catch up with them this weekend, tomorrow, whenever you want to do them. So here's what I have challenged people to do every day in the past week. And if you come back next week, I'll have more for next week as well. And if you stick around after these tasks, I'm going to give you a sneak preview of some of the amazing writers who have shared their brains with us this year and given us prompts. Some of them are award winners. Most of them actually are award-winning writers. Some of them teach at a really high level at colleges and universities, and they've shared a prompt or a lesson with us that they might use with those high-level courses. Some of them have dug deep and given us really thoughtful prompts. Some of them have given us throwaway lines that are going to spark so many different types of stories. So stay tuned after this little interlude where I give you some tasks, and I will reward you with an announcement about who you can expect to see writing prompts from. It's an incomplete list currently, but it's a good list. So stay tuned for that. And now let's get to our writing tiny tasks for preparation for StoryADay May. I strongly recommend, before we get started here, that you set up some kind of document or notebook for this work. Write out these questions, come over to the blog, download them, get them from your email, whatever you're doing. Write out these questions and spend a little bit of time with them each day. You don't have to do it in real time because I'm just going to rattle through them right here, but grab a notebook that you're going to dedicate to this if you like to handwrite, or open up a file on your phone, or open up a file on your computer or your tablet, or however you like to write. Grab these questions and commit to spending a little bit of time with them. And then next week, answer the questions in the same place, so that when the challenge comes around, you're not scrabbling for 1,001 post-it notes and wondering if you put it in your phone or your Trello or your notebook or your journal. Pick one place for your StoryADay prep and stick to it. Not for the rest of your life, just for this month. Okay, are we ready? Okay, so since there were only 4 weekdays in April this week, I'm going to give you that as a task 0. Set up your workspace, get yourself a notebook, get yourself a file or a folder. You're going to do all of this prep work. Keep it all in one place so that you can access it easily during the challenge. That's task 0. Off you go. Now, task 1 that I sent out on the 1st of April is about making the challenge work for you. This challenge, this StoryADay venture, is about helping you trend towards more writing, happier writing, more fulfillment. It's not about making you write 31 stories. It's about helping you discover how to be a more creative, more productive writer, and along the way, becoming a more fulfilled writer. So I have a document that you can come over to the blog. If you come over to storyaday.org/making the challenge work for you, with hyphens in between those words, you will see a link to a document called The Creative Commute, which is a lesson about making that transition from daily life to creating. There are lots of ways that you can do that. A lot of them take a lot of time, so I've developed this short version. So here you can download that file, but here's the short version of what I tell you in that. And I want you to think about trying this out today. So because transitioning from daily life to writing time can be hard, with lots of noise and chatter going on in your head, a lot of us use things like morning pages and free writing and all these rituals to ease ourselves into the writing, to empty our brains of all of the chatter so that we can get to the creative stuff. And that's wonderful and perfect if you have all the time in the world, and even then it doesn't always work. So I experimented recently with doing what I called a creative commute, which was a much more abbreviated and targeted version of that kind of free writing or morning page type experience. They can steal all of your writing time and energy if you let them just go on, and they might not have anything to do with your actual project. So here's what I recommend. Set a timer for no more than 1/3 of your available writing time. So for example, in the StoryADay Superstars, we get together and we do these hour-long writing sprints, but we break them up into 25-minute segments. We chat for a bit, we write for 25 minutes, we chat for a bit, we write for 25 minutes, we say goodbye. So when I sit down to write in the morning with the Superstars, I have 25 minutes to do something, and that can easily be taken up by morning pages or free writing or whatever. So what I've started doing is setting a timer for 1/3 of that time, which works out to about 8 minutes, I think. And I just write like the wind for those 8 minutes. And the trick is to really focus on writing. So I recommend that you focus on something that you noticed in the last 24 hours, something that delighted you, something that annoyed you, something that you smelled, just something that is vivid that you can actually focus your writing on. It might be something you read, and just write about that in the most writerly way you can, as if you were in the midst of an essay or a novel, and just write and don't stop for those 8 minutes or whatever the third of your writing time is that you need to warm up, and then move on to the project of your choice. And that short, intense burst of writing, if you keep going and don't stop, is enough to jolt your brain out of everyday worries and into a more creative space. I also recommend keeping a piece of paper or a sheet nearby where you can write down all the blurts that bubble up. So, I need to make an appointment to get my belly navel lint cleaned out with the navel lint expert. Have a piece of paper there to write that down, and then get back to your creative writing. Oh, I need to remember to call the school. Note that down, get back to your creative writing. That's the creative commute. You can come over and get a nice, pretty PDF about it if you want. But your task for one day is to test out a creative commute. How quickly and intensely can you jolt your brain from everyday concerns into a writing space? Don't take up all of your available writing time to do it. On day 2 of April, I recommended that you start collecting story sparks. This is a term I came up with years ago for not writing ideas, not story ideas, but just for noticing stuff around the world. So the colour of that woman's coat, the exact way that somebody said something at the coffee shop, the smell of the earth first thing in the morning when you walk out of the front door, and the leaf mould is there, and the daffodils are pushing up through the earth, and spring has sprung, and things like that you can use not to come up with a premise for a story, but that might just add depth to a story. It might give you an idea that you can combine with something else for a story. Don't worry about how you're going to use them. Just walk through the world like a writer, catching details. This is like your artist's sketchbook, and I recommend that you capture 3 story sparks a day. So again, not story ideas, just details, colour, sensations, vivid moments that you might include in a story, or you might not. You can come over to the blog and get the Story Sparks Catcher, which is a nice little foldable thing you can fold up. So you print it out and you fold it up, and you've got this little thing you can pop in your pocket and carry around with you and just write them all down. Or you can dedicate a file in your phone to catching your story sparks every day, or use the document that I suggested you start for this. Whatever you do, capture 3 story sparks a day between now and the end of the month, and you will have more than enough material to spark stories, to make your stories more deeper and more real during May, and you will never ever have to sit down and face the blank page. On day 3 of April, I encouraged you to set a timer for 5 minutes and start thinking about story moods. There are so many decisions to make when you start writing a story. Narrowing down your choices is a great gift that you can give yourself now. So your exercise is to think about what kind of moods you like in stories. I'm not talking about genre, whether it's sci-fi or fantasy or mystery or anything like that. I'm talking about the mood. Do you like stories where things are intriguing? Do you like stories where things are exciting and fast-paced? Do you like things that make you feel lifted up? Do you like happy endings? Do you like grim endings? Do you like to be terrified? Do you like things that make you feel a little scared about the state of the world? Thinking about the mood you like to experience as a reader is going to make it much easier for you to write things that you enjoy writing, that you'll enjoy reading, and that you'll stick with. If you like reading uplifting stories, and when you sit down to write, all your stories come out kind of miserable, because there's a reason for that. Sad emotions are intense, and they're easier for us to access in our memories, so a lot of people end up writing sad or depressing stories when they're not really enjoying it. And if you do that, you're not going to enjoy the process of writing them. So think about the mood of stories that you enjoy reading, and write them down. And choose some examples from short stories, novels, television, movies, music, or visual arts that represent the moods that you particularly enjoy, and write those down. And then make a few notes about the elements in those things which contribute most to the mood that you experience as you're consuming them. And keep that list handy, because when you sit down to write in May, I don't want your stories to take off on a path of their own completely. You are driving this bus. So if your story starts to get depressing and you aren't enjoying writing it, or it gets cynical and you don't want to be cynical, you get to consult your list of moods and go, oh look, cynicism and dark are not on that list. No wonder I'm not having any fun with this. Let's see how I can take this story idea and turn it into something that will be scary or inspiring or funny or romantic, or that has an ambiguous ending, not a depressing one or not a happy one. So keep notes on the types of moods you enjoy, examples of works that exemplify those moods, and if you can, figure out what elements are contained in those other works that contribute to that mood. Is there humour in the story? Are there jump scares? What is it that's creating the sensation that you're enjoying? Make those notes and then just do that for 5 or 10 minutes. Keep that list handy and use it as a tool to direct you during StoryADay May. And the final warm-up exercise I had for you in the first week of April was to get started on settings. Setting can be so important to a story, and we don't always think about it. We quite often think about who's in this story and what's going to happen to them, but where it happens can also be really helpful. And again, when you sit down to write a story every day in May, there's so many choices to make every day. It can be handy to have a list of things that you've thought about beforehand. So today, I am going to encourage you to write a few lists. Set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes and list 5 big picture settings where you might be interested in setting stories. So that might be contemporary USA, Mars settlement, in a Mars settlement in the early days of settling on other planets. You might think that writing about a cargo ship in the age of sail is interesting. You might think that about writing on a cargo ship in a far future where space travel is relatively routine is interesting. You might think about writing in a fantasy world that contains dragons or that doesn't contain dragons. So that's your first list, 5 big picture settings that you might like to use. Now, 5 close-up settings. This is particularly good to think about for writing short stories and flash fiction, because most of your action is probably going to take place in one setting. It's probably going to take place in one room. It might take place in one chair. It's going to take place in one moment. So what kinds of settings might you use? So cargo ship in the far future, when space travel is relatively routine, is a big setting. You need to narrow that down for a short story. So maybe you're writing about somebody in the engine room. Another setting from your larger settings might be an open plan office with or without cubicles. You might think about the back seat of a rideshare car. You might think about the throne room in your fantasy kingdom. Or you might think about a particular set of hills that you've enjoyed walking through, or a particular spot by a river that your characters might be sitting at. So close-up settings. Think of 5 close-up settings you might be interested in using in your stories. And for each of those, make a quick note about what thrills you about that setting. Something about that setting brought it to your mind, and I think there's a little thrill, and I don't see why we should waste our creative time on things that don't thrill us. If you said, I should probably write about an open plan office, but it doesn't thrill you because you've never worked in one, you just know that people do, scratch that off your list. But if you've been in one of those things and that brings to mind a whole host of characters and conflict possibilities, write that down. This is why I think an open plan office might be good. Another reason it might thrill you is because you don't have to do any research for it. Like, it's something that you know really well. That's fine. That's a perfectly good reason to write it down. Or it might thrill you because it gives you the opportunity to mash up 2 things that you love, like the engine room on the ship might give you on the spaceship might give you an opportunity to mash up Star Trek and The Expanse if you love both of those shows. Or thinking about walking in nature might give you an opportunity to hang out with a fictional character that you've always loved who walked on that particular trail. For each setting that you came up with, make a quick note about what thrills you or intrigues you about it, what possibilities you see for it, and then for each of them write down, and all of this is optional by the way, you don't have to do all of this, but do as much of it as seems fun and then stop. For each of them, you can also write down one physical detail that springs to mind about your setting. One of the dangers of writing fast drafts of stories is that we can forget to put physical stuff into them. We can forget about setting. So if you think through each of the settings that you've written down and come up with one physical detail about them that you might be able to use, whether it's a smell, a sight, a sound, the particular type of flower that grows along that trail that you like to walk, whatever it is, one particular detail. And then for each of them, if you really want to keep going with this exercise, which I recommend, write down another detail about each of the settings that would not be quite so obvious to someone at a first glance. This is another reason why it's good to use places, because an open plan office might seem very beige, but if you've worked in one, you'll have a detail like the way people put their names on the food in the fridge, or some other detail, a path that you walk down where it's overcast, but when you turn this particular corner, the whole vista opens out in front of you and it catches your breath every time. So a detail that might seem fairly obvious about your setting, and then another detail which would not be so obvious at first glance. And when we get into thinking about characters, you get to make decisions about what your character would notice in these settings. So practice that today. And then final point for this one is to go through what you just wrote and circle 3 of them, or highlight 3 of them that you think would work best for you for the fast drafting world of StoryADay May. So the ones that need the most research, probably not ideal. Doesn't mean you can't write about them, but the ones that need virtually no research because you can just close your eyes and you're there, they might be the ones you want to choose. They also might be the ones that are most boring to you, so they may not be the ones you want to choose. Your mileage will vary. And those are the tiny tasks that I sent out this week by email. When I talk about them, it sounds like a lot more than when I write them down. So sign up for the challenge, get on my email list, and I will send them to you every weekday in April. And the task should take you less time than you've just spent listening to me talk about them. Oh, and if you know anyone else who's always been complaining that they don't have time to write, they never write, they want to write someday, they want to write one day, tell them to sign up too. They get to make their own rules, they don't have to write a story a day, but they will get all of this good stuff, all of these warm-up exercises, all of this excitement. I'm just throwing it all out there this year. There are curated courses that you can take over at StoryADay, like last year's StoryADay Challenge Handbook, which was a very step-by-step journey through a month of writing short stories. You can do that this year if you want to. You can sign up for that one. There is a fee associated with that. The challenge that I do every year, though, is free. You just sign up. It's my gift to the writing community. And the more people who take part, the better. Because I'm doing all this work anyway, so I just love to see tons of people taking part, and it does my ego good. And also I love the idea of people stopping, saying, I want to write someday, and actually writing. In 2010, which was quite some time ago now, I came up with a tagline for this challenge, which is write today, not someday. And that's all we have. So if you have a friend who's always saying, oh, I want to write more, sign them up for the challenge. No, don't sign them up. Get them to sign up for the challenge. Send them to storyaday.org, get them to sign up for the challenge, and they'll get these emails with the warm-up tasks too. I promised you a list of some of the prompters who are going to be giving us a peek inside their brains this coming month in StoryADay May. I'm always amazed. I send out messages to award-winning, best-selling, award-nominated writers, people who are at the top of their game with huge audiences. And sometimes a lot of them say yes, and they give us writing prompts because they know exactly what we're going through, because we're all writers, and they know that some days you need a writing prompt. Some of the people that send us prompts are writing teachers, and they send us exercises that they've taken from their classes. Some of them are writing teachers and don't send us that kind of stuff. They just send us a little thought that they have. Some of them are just best-selling, award-winning authors who send us really thoughtful sparks from their own files, from something in their head. Here, without further ado, are some of the names of the best-selling, Nebula Award-winning, Hugo Award-winning, Best American Short Story Collected, Bram Stoker-nominated, Edgar-winning, and all other kinds of accolades that these writers have who are giving us writing prompts this year. And this is only some of them. There are more than this. So, first of all, we have P. Jelly Clark, Mary Robinette Coal, John Wiswell, Laurie Ostland, Kim Coleman Foote, Sasha Brown, RSA Garcia, Jennifer Hudak, Tim Wagoner, Rachel Bolton, Julia Elliott, Kai Lovelace, Angela Sylvain, Rich Larson, Effie Cho, Emma Burnett, Patricia A. Jackson, Allegra Hyde, and more. So some of those writers, you will know their names. You may have read some of their stuff. Some of them you won't, but if you go looking for them, and I'll certainly have information about each of them with each of the prompts, and you'll see that these are serious writers who are doing the thing. So it's really fun every year to get a peek inside their brains and see what kind of things they come up with to prompt us. Last year, I did a 15th anniversary version of the challenge where I created a sort of curriculum for you to follow through the month, and you can do it yourself through the month or throughout the year, and that's still available. It's on the site as the Story a Day Challenge Handbook, and it takes you in week 1 from writing prompts to get you to your desk, and they're relatively easy to follow, into week 2, which is about the craft of the storytelling, into week 3, which is weird and wonderful short story formats, and so on through the month, and scenarios I think in week 4, and then week 5 we mop up with a bunch of odd and revisited type of prompts, and you can get that and you can follow through that and have it available to you on your own schedule at any time. If you come over to storyaday.org/handbook, that's available to you forever, as far as forever exists in this digital world. But this year, I went back to inviting guests to give us prompts. So the course is less of a journey through the skills of writing and more of a, hey, what are we going to get today? So I'm alternating the prompts between ones that are a little easier to absorb, and then at the weekends I'm using the ones which I'm placing the ones which take a little more thought, and I'm trying to alternate between heavy prompts and throwaway prompts. Not throwaways sounds derogatory, but the lighter prompts which are just easier for you to either, they're restrictive in terms of word count or use these words in your story and they're just like, oh my goodness, I have no idea what I'm going to do with this, let me write. And the other ones which are a little more, ooh, that's really interesting, let me think about that for a minute. So I'm alternating those types of prompts. So you can come to the challenge every day if the prompt that one of these writers has submitted to us doesn't spark your interest that day, or it seems, oh, I want to get my teeth into that one, I'm going to save it for June or July. That's fine. That's why I'm encouraging you to gather story sparks now so that you can use them in conjunction with the prompts, or if the prompt doesn't strike you on a day, give it a few minutes and work with it. A lot of times people have looked at prompts in the past and gone, I hate this prompt, I'm never going to be able to write to this, and then they write something which really surprises them and ends up delighting them and being the favourite thing they wrote during the month. So don't write off the prompts immediately, but if you look at one of the prompts and you're like, I don't want to write to that one, that's fine. Write your own thing. But there will always be something at the site to prompt you every day of the challenge, and it will come from one of these writers, it will come from other writers, some of them will come from me, I think, but there's plenty of stuff there. So that's what's coming up. Some amazing writers who are sharing with us, peek inside their brain and sending you all immense good energy and writerly fairy dust. Every email I've had from all of these writers has been so encouraging and sending all their best wishes to everybody who's taking part in the challenge. So use that energy as well. That's what I have for you. I know this is a long episode, so I'm going to cut it there, and I am so excited to have you with us during the challenge or during the rest of the year. I will be opening up again the Superstars group, which is our inner circle. That will be opening up right before the challenge starts, and it's a great way to find your community and keep the momentum going for the next 6 months or longer if you like, but really to have somewhere to go every day of the challenge, because we do run writing sprints on Zoom. We have a private text-based community where you can hop in and ask for support and advice, or just celebrate or commiserate with people. So that's all coming soon too. So watch out, there will be a lot of stuff from me this month, I know, but it's trying to get you excited, trying to get you writing. May is an amazing month for just buckling down and doing all that writing that you want to do in a concentrated space. Get yourself some first drafts so that you're ready for the rest of the year to draw on. I've been doing that this year. I've been trying to write and complete and submit more stories myself, and I found myself going back to Story a Day drafts from last year and the year before and the year before that, things that I maybe didn't work on straight away, and I'm like, oh, I could turn that into something. And there were some things that were 100 words that I've expanded out now to be 4,000 word stories that are out on submission. So take a month, get all your ideas out, join us, make your own rules, sign up for the challenge if you haven't already, storyaday.org, or you can go over to storyaday.org/sign up for a shorter version of that sign up process. And I will be sending you weekdays in April little motivational emails with plans for you to take part in, like the stuff that I talked about in this podcast, tiny tasks for every day that will help you amass material, get ready for the challenge, get your head in the right place, and get excited about it. All right, that's it for this week. Happy writing and sign up, storyaday.org. Thanks for listening. Why not come over to the blog at storyaday.org and check out this week's writing prompts and articles. And in the meantime, have a great creative week. And of course, keep writing.